I've talked to a lot of engineers that want to grow their own company. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to get out there. Well, today's guest on the Civil Engineering CEO is a true and inspiring entrepreneur and an engineer. Mae Whiteside Williams is the founder and CEO at CKL Engineers in Chicago and now expanding into other areas. And when I say she's a true entrepreneur, she started with nothing. She started her business with $700 and grew it to be 28 people today and expanding into multiple cities. And in this episode, she's going to talk about how she did it and what it really takes to grow an engineering career and an engineering firm. And I'm thrilled to have her. Let's jump right in with Mae. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor, Tensar. Before we go on here, I'd like to recognize our sponsor for this episode, Tensar International.
Check out Tensar Plus, the award-winning design software for construction professionals to design with geosynthetics and calculate their value on projects. Tensar Plus is simple to use with a powerful engineering system at its core. Whether you're designing a crane pad or need to build a temporary road over muck, the cost, time, and carbon savings can be calculated, making comparison with alternatives simple. Whatever you're working on, Tensar Plus is your toolbox for success.
All right, now I am excited to welcome our guest onto the show today. Mae Whiteside Williams is a professional engineer, founder and CEO at CKL Engineers, and we're excited to hear about her journey here on the Civil Engineering CEO. Mae, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, I'm excited to have you and excited to talk to you, and I'm happy to hear that you've listened to a couple of the podcasts as well. That's always nice to hear. So thank you for doing this.
Awesome. It's a dream of mine to be on this podcast because, like I said, I take a lot of nuggets from the podcast and incorporate it into my own operational efficiency. So thank you to this podcast. I really fine-tuned a couple of areas in my business that I'd love to talk about today.
Oh, awesome. So let's start there. Tell us about the company. Where are you located? What do you do? How many employees? Tell us a little bit about CKL.
So CKL Engineers, it's really a dream of mine come true. We are based in Chicago, Illinois, where I am born and raised. We have 28 engineers full-time working in every aspect of construction, whether it's at airports, local roads, toll authorities, local municipalities, and we have been providing exceptional CEI services for the past 14 years. We recently just celebrated that in late March.
That's awesome. I mean, congratulations to you. I know just starting and building any company is challenging, let alone an engineering company that has a lot of intricacies to it. So congrats to you for making it this far and doing what you're doing. It's great.
Thank you.
So, Mae, take us through your career journey to CKL. What made you decide to start the company, and then like kind of all the way up to kind of your role today in the company and what you do?
So I started working for a construction company called UBM, and the owner at that time was looking to hire African-American engineers to work in his construction company. At that time, build one of the largest African-American construction companies in the Midwest. And I worked as an estimator, and I worked there for about a year, enjoyed my time. And then I decided to work for another firm that dealt primarily with formwork and shoring. And that took me into Weissenhorn, Germany, where I learned different principles of the company and how they carry out formwork design and shoring design, things like that. Later on, I have a good girlfriend of mine that I graduated Illinois Tech with, and she said, "Why don't you think about working at Chicago Department of Transportation?" I said, "Well, I hadn't had a whole lot of transportation classes. I was pretty much a construction geek. I really wanted to stick in construction management, right?"
Mm.
And so I went there, spent 6 years there, did everything from major roadways, major rehabilitation projects, streetscapes, major corridors, and it was just very fun. I learned a lot about interfacing with the public and how you need to correspond with different residences and stakeholders, prior to construction, so they know that their tax dollars are being put to work. So working for a large governmental entity gave me some head sight. And so at that time, after spending 6 years, I then learned about the O'Hare Modernization Program. And to be honest with you, in this region, when there's an airport going, you drop everything and you get to that airport. And I was fortunate to work for a smaller firm, and I got to inspect the construction, the pre-construction work for runway 10 left, 28 right. And I loved airports ever since. And so at that time, out in the airfield, I achieved and got my professional engineering license. And I said, well, oh my goodness, I don't know if I want to work on any other kind of project except airports. And anyone that knows how exciting it is to work airside and landside and in the terminals, you know that that is a career path you wanted. Now, being an employee of a different firm, would that firm actually have airport work? Not sure. So when I got my PE license, I said, you know what? If I want to work on the kind of projects that I would enjoy, that I will wake up at 6 a.m., gunning for the shower and making sure I'm there when the contractors show up with the equipment and greasing the equipment to get it started. If I love it from 6:30 to 7 p.m. at night, then gosh darn it, I better be prepared to seek those projects. And the only way that I could do that, I felt, at the age of 36, is to open up an LLC and just go for it. And that I did. I had said, if I want to work on the kinds of projects that I felt good about, that I wanted to share with my kid that, hey, mom did that, then I better be prepared to respond to these RFPs, these RFQs, and just hope for the best. And that's what I did with $700 in my pocket and a laptop and a Burger King Wi-Fi. That's exactly what I did.
Wow, good for you. I mean, listen, the entrepreneur in me is very excited after hearing that for sure, because it's, you're a very positive person. Obviously, you got a lot of great energy. It's kind of coming through the Zoom here, which is awesome. But I think also people may not get with that what goes into what you did. I mean, there's a lot. It's very difficult. It's very intricate. There's a lot of risks involved with it. Similar to what I did with EMI, I had a phone and a laptop and said, I think I can help engineers become better managers and leaders. And my wife said, you're crazy. We got to pay a mortgage type of thing. But I commend you for doing that, because it is something that I think takes courage, takes belief in yourself, quite frankly, because like you said, there was an opportunity there. You saw the opportunity. You were willing to be there 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., but you still got to do it, right? You still got to take action, start the LLC, and kind of go from there. And there's insurance and there's all kinds of things involved in that. So that's awesome. So talk to us about building the company now. I mean, you're 36 at the time, you start your own company, you're at the Burger King with the Wi-Fi. How do you even know what to do? Like, what did that look like for you? Planning, organizing, getting going?
Well, I had some exposure while working at Chicago Department of Transportation when consultants would come and say, I'd like to have my, debrief on why I didn't win this project. And so I got to learn what it looked like getting a project delivered to the public, but then learning when those teams didn't win, how they had to come back to us and say, hey, I put my best team forward. Why didn't I win this project? And so with that in mind, I knew there was a big risk in starting a company and responding to RFQs and RFPs and possibly not winning that work. And that did happen to me. And when you talk about risk, I almost lost it all. When I first got my project, which was the US 41 project along South Lakeshore Drive, it was open to the public for the first time in ages, because that was landlocked. It was a previous steel mill there. Now, I told you earlier, I started the company with $700. And in 2 years, waiting on your first project, I almost ran out of gas. My truck almost ran out of gas on the project. And the resident engineer almost had to push me off the embankment so that I could even go home to the gas station.
Jeez.
So the risk there, on top of nearly losing my home, because I'm a single parent. Now, coming from where I come from, I had to scrap for it. When anyone knows anyone from Chicago, you have to bang down doors and you got to scrap, and I got the reputation of banging down doors. I need to get paid. Do I have to wait 6 months to get paid? And when I talk about the Burger King Wi-Fi, I lost internet at my house because I couldn't afford it. So I would get off the project and I would go over to the Burger King at 95th and Michigan, and I would sit in that corner and I would use free Wi-Fi. I would buy French fries. I would buy a 99-cent burger. I would buy a Sprite, and I would just eat it just for exchange of Wi-Fi. And can you imagine? You're hustling for Wi-Fi, but you got
Right.
to keep going.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I'm just thinking if any engineer out there emails me and says I'm struggling in my career, I'm going to tell them call Mae because she'll get you going.
I will get you straight. And then, and
That's
then,
awesome.
one thing I want to mention about being an African American woman in the city of Chicago, and everyone tells you, yeah, go and get that minority woman certification, that
Mhm.
MWE, and get your DBE. Now, mind you, I checked off every single box. But the problem with the program at that time, and I hope it's not in, being utilized now, but I had to provide a resignation letter from my full-time job in exchange for the minority woman certification from the city of Chicago. And that's when I pretty much lost it all. They wanted W-2s from CKL Engineers, but the catch is I now had no work for 2 years, and then trying to get a line of credit, my credit score is now in the 400s because I studiously went by the rules. I played by the rules. The rules not meant for everybody, but I played by them, and it hurt me in the long term, but that's what I had to endure in order to get the certification so that I could be a part of the prime work that was happening in and around the city. And as you know, starting out, you may not get that first contract right away. The agency wants to know you through another firm. You just got to wait and see if that firm actually wins the work. So now you're out here waiting and you're not earning income because you're following the rules about not having a job outside of your LLC and proving that all your income is coming from this. It was a very stressful time. I'd be honest with you. It kind of was a bit discouraging, but I pushed through it though.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was, and I can tell you did push through it, obviously, by where you're at today. And
Mm-hmm.
for those of you that are younger listeners, maybe students, you're not maybe familiar with everything May's saying. In as an engineering company, you can get a minority or woman-owned designation, and what that does for you is on a lot of the larger engineering projects, there will be a required amount of work that a prime engineering company needs to subcontract or give to, or just a portion of the work that has to be performed by a minority or woman-owned entity. So it sounds like, Mae wasn't able to keep her job and start her business on the side because she needed to show the government there, the local government, that she did resign and this was her only gig, even though she really didn't have any projects yet. And she might not have a project for 6 to 12 months or 2 years, like she said. And so, you're really going all in at that point. And then even if you do get a project, the pay cycle on these projects can be long, and unfortunately. But I see the opportunity because you knew that these companies needed a company like yours to give the work to, right?
Sure, sure. And that meant even with a growling stomach, knocking on those doors and taking people out for 99-cent coffee. I got 99-cent coffee in exchange for, like, I can tell you a joke in exchange for what my firm qualifications are. And I went to every single industry function. I went to all of our technical committees. You're talking the ACECs, the ASCEs, the CMAAs, the alphabet soup of technical organizations. And I had a one pager for my one project that I completed and said, hey, I can give you value. I am a one person firm right now, but I can give you value and I can stand on that. And they just took me because I literally had the guts to say that. And I had to be strong about it too, and give them the confidence that yes, I know the people working at those government entities you're getting work from. Yes, I have those previous relationships. I may not look like it in my tattered clothing, but I
My 99 cents coffee and my ripped
but in my
clothes.
99-cent coffee, but in exchange, I sold. And I coming out of college, and I'm just thinking back undergraduate years. they're not telling you how to sell your skill sets.
Mm.
They're telling you how to execute design projects. You're studying, you're taking the lab results and you're processing those lab results and you're looking at how to design pavements and things like that. But nowhere in those classes did it say, here's how you learn how to sell technically. That's an entirely different language than retail clothing, than selling shoes. It is selling your worth and your experience.
That's wild. Yeah, you're right about that. Engineers don't learn that, and you need that if you're going to grow your own business for sure. And I was watching a basketball coach recently. He was being interviewed talking about team building, and he said, when I try to build a team, he said, I look for players with PhDs, and everyone said, PhDs? He get not the kind you get in school. He said they have to be passionate, hungry, and driven. He says, if I have those people, I'm going to have a good team. And I think, to your point, some of the stuff that you're doing, they're not going to teach you in engineering school. They're not going to teach you in any school. It's just about being passionate, being driven, and saying, I want to accomplish this. If I got to go to Burger King, if I got to run through a wall, if I got to do whatever I got to do, I'm going to get it done. But I can also tell you also from my own experience that I think when you do something like that, it may be difficult at the time, but in the long run, it's very valuable from an experience perspective because I mean, if you could do that, I think your confidence level goes through the roof. And I could really do anything at this point because I had nothing and I built something, which I think is an exciting part of also entrepreneurship.
That's true. And then, in terms of building a team that believed in you, here I am. I'm a company that no one heard of. Take a chance on me, apply here. And I guarantee you, you will have the experience you never had. You may be working on a construction inspection project, but then you're helping to solicit other firms to see how we could team with them on future projects, how to write and craft an email to explain your expertise in selling the company and inviting them back for a phone call or inviting them back for a dinner. And those kinds of negotiations only happen when you have the confidence and showing your team, hey, build this with me. And I had to look for builders. There's a difference. I had to look for builders, not just those that sat at the desk and did the work and was very studious. Yes, you do need those. But when you're starting a firm, you need those builders. And they're out there, but that comes from building those relationships. So with that, I was able to, from previous employment, people that I've talked to and planted the seeds early, hey, I want to start my own business. They were like, if you do that, I'll come with you. And they came with me.
Hey, listen, I've been talking to you for 20 minutes. I'm ready to work there. Sign me up.
And they have fun. And now the firm, we travel now. We have offices not only in Illinois now, we have an office presence in Georgia as well. And so they're excited. We're looking to build in Dallas, Texas. And so these fellow engineers that, are now expanding their own roles within the company and within their career, they want to take it to the next level. And I'm looking for those that are looking to take it to the next level, who want to lead, who want to inspire, who want to employ fellow engineers. And I'd be honest, I wanted to be an employer. I did. And so this is the place to be. We're the best, smallest company you may not have heard of, but we have the heart, we have the soul, and we have the grit to get that project done and chase it too. We're hard to beat.
No, I love that. I love everything about that. And, I guess one thing I want to ask you about is, hearing the process that you went through to build the company, which was very hands-on. I mean, obviously, bootstrapped, $700, building it from the ground up. Now that you have people there and you're expanding to different offices and stuff, I'm just curious as to how, from a leadership perspective, that is for you, because now I would imagine for you to grow, you really need to lean a lot more on people than you did when it was just you and your Wi-Fi at Burger King, right? So
Yep.
I'm just curious as to that transition of kind of letting go of some of these things and understanding that, you need to get more help at this point and how that transition's been for you.
The transition has been pretty decent. I will say the engineers that was used to just delivering projects, I'm like, hey, I've been watching you for the last 3-4 years. What do you think about moving up? Oh, I don't know if I could. I don't want to hear scared. I want to hear, can you move up? Because in order to grow, I wore all the hats. I did the accounting. I did all the, what I mean by that, I did all the invoicing for all the projects. I'm the project manager for almost 80% of the projects in the company. I'm involved, and my engineers will tell you I'm intimately involved in almost every aspect of the business, and I maintain individual relationships with all the engineers in the firm. But as we're growing to different regions and states, it's like, okay, I've been watching you work. I now know you. And it was very important in order to transition that I had that relationship. I had to, in turn, go from leadership to leadership servant. Does that make sense? I had to become the person behind them, serving them so that they have the confidence to step up and lead, and also maintain the company culture at the same time. So we had the people that had been here a while, we had incoming engineers from other places, and telling the existing engineers, need you to lead, need you to step up, but maintain the company culture at the exact same time. And I had to step back and be that servant and help them understand what that looks like. And for some CEOs, they may, step back a bit more early in the building of the company. Let me just hire somebody else to do that. I was there from day one and making sure that all of the steps were planted and completed, and building that infrastructure, building the standard operating procedures, so that it isn't a mystery. If you are selected to step up into that role, you have some key elements that you need to hit every day in this role. And with that, I had to kind of lead from the back and kind of push them forward. But I couldn't be this top down looking, like I'm hovering over the organization. I had to get behind my engineers. And that was probably the most interesting, the most humbling for me, the most inspiring. I probably was the most inspirational person you could have met. And that is leading from behind. I had to get behind them and give them the confidence that you could lead this.
That's awesome. No, I really like that. And I think it's always one of those balancing acts as a leader. Is I like the idea of doing everything in the beginning. It's like what I did here, like what you did, because you get to learn every facet of the business, and which is important if you want to grow it. But I also know that you have to then know at what time it start to letting go of different things and when to like trust certain people. And it's very difficult. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? Yeah, just delegate stuff, if you want to grow the company, but it's not that easy because you have a reputation, you have a level of quality that you want to deliver projects at that is your reputation, the company's reputation on the line. And so it's really about selecting the right people to join the team, building them up. And like you said, getting behind them and making sure that they have the confidence that they feel that they can go and do it. And some of it is they're going to have to learn on their own and make a couple of mistakes, which is just part of the process. I mean, I think we all did that from the beginning for sure. And you just have to be there when they make a mistake to kind of get them back on track and say, listen, it's not going to work every time perfectly, but I believe in you. Do it again.
Absolutely. And that's when I decided that back in March this year, create mentoring circles. They're going to make mistakes. You're always going to have your 0 to 3. You're always going to have your 10 to 15 year. You're always going to have your 25-year career employees. And mentoring circles is important in our firm because we have engineers who want to transition possibly from road work to aviation, or they're starting out in construction inspection, but then they get the mentoring from a senior resident engineer to correct those mistakes they may have made. And in order to learn, you have to make those mistakes. We don't want the mistakes to be so, damaging to the company, which is why we check in those milestones. You don't just let a project engineer just go out and figure it out to chance. You do have to make your check-ins, but the mistakes are learning, and it's a healthy part of growing up. And mind you, some of these engineers are 21, 22 years old. They're going to make the mistakes. They don't know everything right now, but it is my job and those that are senior in experience to make sure that those junior and mid-level engineers get the technical experience behind them and also know who in the company to call when I'm preparing to make a mistake. Like, you can look at a project and go, I really don't understand how to read these contract plans, or I don't really understand what this cross section, what does this mean? And we don't want them to just go willy-nilly. We have the experienced engineers in-house to help them, and those mentoring circles mean everything to us.
Yeah, no, I think we do a lot of like project management training for firms. And one of the things that we always try to incorporate is mentoring from experienced PMs to younger PMs in your firm, because you could do training and teach them some of the skill sets and concepts. And I think that's great. But it's that reinforcement and that guidance from people that have done it and are on the job doing it that really helps people learn and helps people develop and gives them that confidence, like you talked about before, kind of leading from behind. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the extracurricular stuff that you do, but one last question, just from a CKL perspective before we do that. Obviously a couple of years, COVID happened and a lot of stuff happened around that and a lot of challenges for small businesses. I'd love to hear how you handled that, being that you had a lot of experience in the past of, being on your own and just having to grow, and, a lot of challenges already. So I'm assuming that kind of helped you, but take us through like that 2020, March 2020, everything shuts down. How did you handle all of that?
It was scary. And what we did, I had said, I don't know anything about this COVID disease. I went online and I talked to my VP of admin. And I said, hey, let's find some tools because we're going home. I got the call and we were all watching the news. And you know what? I turned around, I looked at my staff, I said, pack your things, we are gone. Go home, we will figure this out. We all went home, some of them happily because they get to see their kids during the workday. But I immediately went to work from home. And currently now we're hybrid. We have an office we could tap into, but for the most part, we remained work from home primarily.
And then you do site work a lot, right? Because
And
you're
then
on
we do
sites a
site
lot.
work.
Yeah.
And what made it easier for us, and I tell you, anyone that have construction management as their core offering, it was easy because they could commute from home and go right to the field or the project site, work in the field office, and they go back home. We really didn't need a home office to patch into. So it worked, to be honest, it worked out even better.
So you were able to keep
home.
going and keep your
And
business going.
and we grew. That was the scary part. Like, we grew, but then there was a lot of fluctuations in the market. Employees were leaving and then they were transitioning to other firms, and we were able to get some good catches. But for the most part, our employees embraced the work from home culture. But for the safety of our engineers and our employees and our staff admins, we worked from home, and it was a little bumpy for about a couple of months or two because we had people that got too comfortable and now they're on their couches and now they're not responding well, or they took a nap and it went too long. And then after we kind of set some ground rules, it actually worked out. It almost worked out better that we're working from home.
Listen, if I worked for you, I would not sit on my couch. I'll tell you that much right now. I feel like she's coming and she's gonna get me going.
They don't, yeah, there is no, because we have the energy. So
yeah.
they were excited to get up and, go right to their desk, and it's gonna be energy coming through that phone. It's gonna be energy coming through those emails and those Zooms. But then what we did in the process, we started after, the fears kind of calmed down. We decided we missed each other. It was the best thing. We started organizing events at Top Golf. We started having extracurricular activities at the local baseball games. I'm in Chicago, so there's some Sox fans, some Cub fans. So we started to create those outdoor sporting activities just to kind of get to know each other. And we found out that we really wanted to be together. So we found a way to work from home, work on our project sites, but then we let our hair down and we created those extracurricular events.
That's awesome. No, I love that. And I think what really makes, entrepreneurs special, you certainly being one of them, is the energy and the passion. And I think that, you could be a principal in an engineering firm, a large engineering firm, you could be a part owner, whatever the case may be. But when you're an entrepreneur, and obviously I'm biased, but when you're an entrepreneur, there's something inside of you that's like, let's get, like, it's burning, like, let's get going. You know what I mean? And I feel like you need that energy, especially when you build a business like this, because there's just lots of challenges, you know? And people need the energy from their leader when they deal with something. You know, they deal with something tough. They're on a project site. The contractor's really harping on them. There's a problem, you know, and they need someone with that experience and that passion. And so I think, to me, that's what makes entrepreneurship special, because you can't just understand the craft of what you're doing. You have to get people going.
Yeah, you do. And you've got to make sure that they feel good knowing that next project is around the corner. So a part of that energy, I can impart energy all day long, but the resulting issue is, where's my next project? And in this work from home environment, how can I ascend into leadership? So that meant that that energy coming from me, I mean, man, I had to get it from somewhere else too, you know. So I'm
You got to
working
charge your
out.
battery up.
I had to charge my own battery up. I ordered a Peloton bike. I'm on that every other day. I mean, there's some days I should be on it, but you know, I had to go walking outside for fresh air. I had to start praying. I had to start meditating. You know, I had
Yeah.
to find my own source of inspiration, because honestly, business is tough. When you're on a high, you're on a high. When you're on a low, oh my goodness, you don't know how long that low is. So it's finding where I put my energy, you know, whether it's I'm writing notes about or journaling about my day, or just making sure that I am in my best mentally fit and physically fit mindset, so that I can give that energy. Because if I'm down, oh my God, the whole company feels it. They
Yeah.
watch the CEO, they watch the leadership. If the energy starts to go draining down the tubes, guess what? They're not going to feel inspiration from anywhere, and they start looking for another company to work for. And that's
Yeah.
not what you want to do.
Yeah. And I think you make a really good and important point that everybody should be aware of, which is your physical and mental health is very important to your success in business, in your career, because what happens a lot of times is we get so busy with work stuff, we forget to take care of the other parts that are important, right? Like our health, physically, mentally. And that's not good for you, and it's not good for your team, because like you said, you get worn down, you get stressed out, they get stressed
Mhm.
out. So I know sometimes it's tough because we're busy and we only have so many hours in the day, but you got to work out, you got to get yourself in shape, you got to do your calls when you're walking. I did a couple calls today, I took a walk. You got to keep moving and you got to stay healthy, and I think that also sets a good example for your team members to do that as well. All right, so I want to switch gears as we kind of start to wrap up here a little bit. I know you're the founder of the Women STEM Entrepreneurs Breakfast Club and just a champion for women business owners achieving success. Talk about the club, talk about what got you going with this. I want to hear about this for sure.
So one day in my um, walk, I was taking a walk around the block, and I'd be honest, I strategically placed my physical office in the same neighborhood as the homeless shelter I lived in as a kid. I didn't mention it earlier in the conversation, but my mother and I, we lived in homeless shelters throughout the city of Chicago over a period of 8 or 9 years. My goal in putting my office nearest the homeless shelter was to constantly remind myself, if you can make it out of this, you can make it anywhere. So as I was taking a walk near that homeless shelter, I thought about women who were in my boat, city, you know, entrepreneurs that are sitting at their desk thinking about their next project, or they didn't win this project, or the municipality didn't pick this woman on business for whatever reason. And I thought, there's a community of women entrepreneurs that may feel overlooked, that may not feel they're in the same economic successes as their male counterparts. So how can we get the energy behind these women? So what I did was I said, well, let me think about women who are making it happen every day. So I tapped a couple of women and I said, hey, I'm starting this Women STEM Entrepreneurs Breakfast Forum, you know, meaning we'll get up just like these other local political places, but women, and talking about business. Let's have breakfast between like 7:30 and 9. And we're going to put some powerful local women, and we're going to talk about what their day looks like, what it's like winning work, what it's like not getting that project, and how to keep going and how to balance being a mother, a wife, um, and just being civically involved in the city and putting them in a room with women who want to be like that. There's a thing called role modeling that every business owner kind of does. When they see a business owner that they want to fashion their business, the success of their business into theirs, like incorporating some successful ideas and motivational ways to get your employees to kind of work together, bond together, win. You start to look at those entrepreneurs and go, wouldn't mind role modeling myself after that person. So I picked a couple of women who would be great role models to the women who signed up. The first event I oversold. I thought maybe 60 people would show up, 80 people showed up. I did it another year, ended up having a mixer at a venue the night before. I was able to bring in women who were former commissioners of departments in the city to be on that panel and talk about what it is like to be a leader and at times feel discounted. But you know what? You get right back up and you build that empire the way you were designed to do it. And that I couldn't have done a better forum for that, because every single year it got bigger. And then COVID hit. And then I said, well, I don't think people will come in person for something like that. But we were starting the forum, and I will tell you, I treated the women like royalty. They walk in, there was a breakfast spread, bacon, scrambled eggs, waffles, coffee, teas, and juices, and just having the hotel staff just cater to them while they listen to these powerful women on the panel talk about their challenges, whether for profit or non for profit, whether government entity or not. And at the end of those events, I would give them all a beautiful bouquet of flowers for thanking them for coming out. So
wow, that's
that
amazing.
that was something that I think really lifted the spirits of women who feel as though they're right there, but they just haven't quite made it in the way that they wanted to make it. And so they were able to walk away with a couple of phone numbers, a couple of follow-up teas and coffees to talk about, hey, I just want to learn how you did it. And they're really saying, I want to figure out how to take some of those role modeling activities and kind of see if it works for me and my business.
That's awesome. I mean, sometimes that's really all you need is a couple of conversations with someone that's done it, because it gives you the confidence. And sometimes they give you real life examples and other things that you can use, of course, as well. But I think sometimes just talking to someone that's done it, who's had somewhat of a similar background to you, is enough motivation for you to kind of get going on it and get started on it. So that's awesome that you did that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's inspiring. All right, so my last question that I have for you is, how the heck do you do all this stuff? From a time management perspective, I mean, how do you balance the company or extracurricular activities? What is it that you do to be able to do that?
Well, I will say in the top of my morning, I look at my calendar for the week. What is it that I need to prioritize this week? Does it need to have an answer Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning? And I literally go through my week and figure out what are the important things I need to do between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. Email responses back to those. Then I go through the physical activities where I know I'm going to meet clients, and I try to, prioritize preparing for those meetings. And then I am hands-on, as mentioned earlier, and I visit my job sites and I schedule my time. I try to finish my day around 2 p.m. every day. And yes, it does sound like a lot, but when I'm done around 2 p.m., I now get to do the things I need to do for my family: grocery shopping, cooking, watching movies, or just having
Geez, you have a
extra
family
time.
too? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and I have a. Well, I have a. He'll be 21 in a couple of months. He was 7 when I started this business. Now
Wow.
he's my administrative assistant. So
Oh wow, that's
after
awesome.
dinner, we're talking about your next tasks. So he's excited. But that's the thing. And then when it comes to working with my team, I'm always talking and texting to my team. We use text messages a lot. and we coordinate with each other about, next steps in our RFP and RFQ search process and what that looks like, and building out those frameworks. And I think planning, it wasn't something that I was good at, but I found a couple of engineers on staff that was really good at that and kind of organized a couple of those activities, meaning I gave them leadership responsibilities they didn't know they got. But but that's kind of how I do my day. I try to finish at about 2 p.m. so that I can enjoy my family. One of the things that civil engineers end up doing, we spend so many hours at work that we're almost spent by the time it gets to our family. And I knew for me, I didn't want to be that person. So planning my day better.
So you start early.
About me. I start earlier. I start around 5:45, 6 o'clock.
Okay. Well, listen, you are certainly an inspiring entrepreneur and engineer, which is, in my opinion, a great combination. And you've done so much. You've overcome a lot of challenges, and you've kind of got through them, which, again, is, I think, an inspirational thing, because then you can show other people out there, like you said, other women that may be starting businesses, that they can do it too. I was lucky to get the chance to talk to you for a little while here, because and share this, hopefully with thousands of civil engineers out there, some of whom I'm sure are going to call you and say, hey, I want to come work for you, Mae.
I hope so.
But I don't know. I think after this call, I'm going to go outside and sell something door to door. I'm pumped up right now myself. But no, Mae, I appreciate you coming on. Where can our listeners find you? I guess they can connect with you on LinkedIn, right?
You absolutely can. You'll see me on LinkedIn at Mae Whiteside Williams. Always visit our website at CKLENG.com. And also we're on Facebook, Twitter, and IG. Haven't done TikTok yet. Not yet.
All right.
But we're on those social media links.
All right. Well, listen, Mae, I want to thank you so much for spending some time here on the Civil Engineering CEO. I really appreciate it.
What an honor.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Mae. I mean, she is awesome, energetic, inspirational, but that's what it takes to build a business. And I hope that if you're interested in doing that, you garnered some inspiration from her, connect with her on LinkedIn, and get going, because she kind of gave you a little bit of a blueprint there, which is essentially hard work. And if you liked the video, please consider subscribing to our channel here. We put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.